Hi, today we're going to be talking about manual tasks in the workplace. My name is Michael Terry, I'm from Momentum Safety and Ergonomics, and this is the 5-Minute Safety Series. So as always, when we're talking about a topic, we need to make sure that we identify the hazards to do with that topic first up. And manual tasks is no different. Whenever we're talking about hazards to do with manual tasks, it's really going to be important that we talk to our workers. They will have some really important information about the types of tasks that they feel are a bit uncomfortable, a bit hazardous. They might even feel a bit of pain when they're doing them, so we can get some really clear, good information right off the bat by talking to our workers. We should also have a look at our incidents. They're going to give us heaps of information about type of tasks people are reporting as being problematic, the types of tasks which have caused injuries in the past. So we're looking at that. And finally, and really importantly, we just need to get out there and have a look around and observe people in their workplaces. And here what we're going to be doing is looking for specific risk factors. When we're talking about risk factors for manual tasks, we need to think about 5 key things. The first one is repetitive or sustained force. So here we might be talking about a task where it's not particularly heavy, but it's done many times in a row over a long period of time. You can see an example that we have here on screen where a chap is leaning over and performing work in a slightly sustained bent posture there. So he's applying force over a long period of time. If he was to do that for a couple of minutes, it wouldn't be a big deal, but the fact that he's doing it all day long is the thing that makes the big difference there. The second risk factor is high or sudden force. And here we're talking about these more impactful type forces. So something where you lift a really heavy object, or possibly something like pushing or pulling a heavy pallet jack or something like that would be a good example of a high or sudden force, and they can cause injuries straight away. The third risk factor is our awkward postures, and here we're looking at any task which takes you into a really awkward, bent, flexed position. We've got some good examples on screen of some really awkward postures that people are getting themselves into. The next risk factor is repetition. So here we're talking about any task where the frequency is very high and it happens over a longer period of time. So it doesn't have to be a high force task to be a repetitive and potentially risky task. And anyone who works in an office workplace and has been using their mouse or keyboard or screen for a long period of time without rest will know just what we're talking about here. Even those low force tasks can add up over time. Final one is vibration. So vibration is not as common, but if we're using tools like jackhammers or we're sitting on vibrating machinery such as earth moving equipment, these vibration forces can add up over a period of time and create some risk there. So once we identify these hazardous type tasks in our workplace, we then go ahead and do our risk assessment on those tasks. And there's various ways that we can do a risk assessment. We can use the standard risk assessment template which we've discussed in previous videos, and this does the job, but when it comes to manual tasks we do have a couple of very specific risk assessment tools. One of them is called Perform, which is shown on screen here. Perform is a risk assessment tool that uses the workers to identify their hazardous tasks, and the workers actually come up with a lot of control measures. And the difference between using a specific workplace or manual task risk assessment tool like Perform and using a standard risk management process is the fact that we look at the risk for different parts of the body. So the risk to my back might be different to the risk for my shoulder. Another one that is a little bit more complex but is still a good tool is called Mantra. It's based on those same risk factors that we talked about. And Mantra is probably something that's used more by someone who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to manual tasks. But both Perform and Mantra are available on the Workplace Health and Safety Queensland website. Okay, so that's a bit of information about risk factors for manual tasks and the different risk assessment tools that we can use to risk assess those particular tasks. In part 2 we're going to be looking at the specific control measures that are relevant to manual tasks.